Okay, here's what we're going to do. I wanted to put this video out, and I'm going to try to make it as quick as possible. Last class went 20 minutes, but they're 13:01. Maybe I want to go so long with you guys. I don't know. I just don't want to take up too much of your time because you need to get stuff turned in. But the semester is over on May 14th. This is basically going to be going through this. I wanted to show you how to do the final grade conference sheet, how to read it. Additionally, how to use the Excel grade check form, which I'm going to do at the end. And how to read that grade conference sheet to find out what needs to be turned in, where to turn it in. I've got a breakdown of it that I'm going to show you for this class, but this video is basically going to be going over these different points. I want to reemphasize classes over May 14th, 11 to 9 p.m. I have to get grades in by then. If I don't, I get in trouble. Just after midnight, grades have to be posted. So I need to have plenty of time to grade the things that I have to grade, and it's worth your time to get stuff submitted. Final grade conference sheet, I'm going to go over that in just a second. If you don't know what that is, you need to go to ICDPT 9 and 10 here in the in-class discussion participation teamwork section and find that assignment. Make sure all assignments are submitted and have a grade, all of them. Go to your grades, look at them, make sure. On my conference sheet, double check it with your grades, and do that. If there's a discrepancy, it means you've done it since, and it wasn't on the sheet when I originally did it, so you need to add it in the Excel grade check form yourself, which I will show you how to do. You have to submit everything if you want an A, and I am still accepting every single assignment with the exception of the first half of the ICDPT grades. I can't do that. Those are participatory. You have to be there in the first half of the semester. Could be. Everything is still open. There's a YouTube link you can see here, or you might be able to see. I don't know if you can see it. It might be behind my back right now because I've used a green screen to get rid of myself. Obviously, you're watching that video right now, so you found the link if you are seeing this. And I also have this breakdown on the announcement of what all assignments are left, what all assignments you can do, where to find them in the class. But first, let's take you to the most important place to go, which is the final grade conference sheet. So I'm going to go over here to Magnus Braca. He's going to go to our class, English 1302. And as you'll see, like I mentioned, I have added in a grade check form. You have to have Excel to use it, but it's very useful. But I'll be coming back to that soon because we'll need it once we start working with our grade conference sheet. The way to get there was I said over here in the announcement, you go to in-class discussion participation teamwork area. I'm sorry, I'm slurring. I'm trying to talk slow and it still comes out fast. You scroll to the bottom because it's 9 and 10. You click it. If you see nothing, you need to submit something. And what you need to submit is, I'm here for my second grade conference, as a sentence in the comment box. That's it. I will then give you this feedback, and I will attach a PDF of your name and give you 20 points. Those 20 points are already factored into that grade. People who didn't do it at the end of the semester, I will go and take those back off because I had to factor them all in for the sheets, but they're there. So you'll click this form, make it big enough to see on the video here. And this breaks down all of your grades. Your eyes will probably immediately gravitate toward final average based on all points. And you're like, why am I even worried about this? Why am I even looking at this if that's my final average? Well, it's not truly your final average. It is your final average if you change nothing. But it's only kind of like your current final average, if that makes sense. If you do nothing else, that is your final average. If you continue to turn stuff in and get more grades, it is not. Now, let's say Magnus Braca wants an A. He notices immediately he has an 80.71. He thought he had done everything. So he needs to figure out what's missing so that he can get an A in the course. And some of you might be in the same situation, but trying to figure out how to get a C in the course because life has been pretty rough in the time of coronavirus. So the ICDPT grades, like I told you, half of them before the semester, and if you haven't done the ones since, do those. You might show 100 for it, but I'm taking those hundreds back off once we get to the semester. So if you didn't do ICDPT 6 and you're like, oh, I got credit for it, you still need to do it to get the credit for it. You have to go and submit what I asked you to submit in order to get the credit. Discussion post total. You'll notice in this case there's actually 260 points out of 200, which makes no sense. But I have like 13 discussion posts, I think. As a result of that, you actually end up with more points than we technically have out of the 10%. And for those people who go and do 13 discussion posts over the course of the semester, which is a lot, you just get those as bonus points. It's essentially like 3 bonus points in the class for keeping up. And those are all still open now, so everybody can get those points. Everybody. They're in the discussion post area. Quiz grades. My quiz grades aren't so high. I actually know off the top of my head, I think there are at least 11, maybe 12 quizzes. So you could have gotten as high as a 220 or a 240 here if your quiz scores were high enough. So either missed one or two, or just didn't do that hot on them. That might be a place where you could gain some points, but still he doesn't see how that's worth 10. It's maybe worth 5. But he's missing 20 points here. And then we have the essay points. So it's broken down into like the whole essay category, which is just the basic essays, not the research. But he did all of those. You can see a 95, 75, 85, and then the critical analysis, not so great, a 77. It's worth more too, so that means it brought his average down a bit. But if you want to calculate his essay average, it was 80 was his research paper, and I've added to your Blackboard in the grades section, so you don't have to calculate this by hand if you don't want to, or with the grade check form. I added an essay average category, which this says he has an 80.999 essay average, which I could see by just looking at the essay grades, adding them up, and dividing by. It's a weird actual number that you have to do. You have to do the essay. These 3 count as 1. This counts as 2, which means the research paper counts as 4, because it's 4 times each one of those synthesis analysis or evaluation synthesis essays. So you actually add those up in that weightage and divide by 9, which is a little too hard. So it might just be easier to use the Excel grade check form or this essay average category that I've built in. So that's going to probably be your best bet. But he notices he has a high enough essay average that he's going to be exempt from the final. Okay. And it actually is included in that grade down there. The exam is. So he's a little confused. He's like, where am I losing these points? Looks at research paper, and he's got the labs, because I'd said, I don't know if you've ever heard me, but if you have 60% or higher on the lab average, then you have full credit. Some of you are a little worried because you show grades in Launchpad, but not in Blackboard. Don't worry about that. I'm keeping track of the people who do it in Launchpad, and then right after midnight tomorrow night, I'll actually be downloading one more time the Launchpad gradebook, and checking to see if there are any discrepancies one by one between students, to make sure that if you don't have any grades going over to Blackboard, I know who that is, and I've already got a list of names that it's already happening to, so I won't have to re-look those up. I'll just write those people down as complete like I had before. But he notices he's got his labs because he's got more than 60, and I did the 60 because we actually had one time where a student had done all of them, but they did very poorly on the pre-test and the post-test, and it brought his grade down to like a 67. And so I said, I want enough wiggle room that I know that even if they get like a 0 because they're really bad at grammar, but they did it, that it won't actually hurt them in a way where they won't get credit. So I made it like a 60 instead of like, I think originally I had like, as long as you got like an 80 or something, it was enough credit. But then I realized, oh man, this guy's, poor guy, did all of them, and he still got. So that's why. So he's got his lab points. So he's like, where am I missing? Where am I missing? Ah, found it. He's supposed to have like 100 and something here for the presentation, and he has an 8. He's like, but I did the presentation, which is confusing. So he doesn't know what's going on. He goes over here to his grades and sees, and if you ever see this, this means that you started submitting something but did not finish. It says he's got a presentation here. Turns out what Magnus Baraka did was he submitted his presentation link, he did the presentation, he submitted the YouTube link just like he's supposed to, and then he kind of went, oh, good, and felt like he was done. The problem with that is you don't just have to submit a presentation. On the presentation, you have to submit your presentation, then go ask 2 different people questions on their presentations, and answer to people who ask you questions. If we get to a point where it's really close and I realize people need to answer questions, I might go in and ask some. But rest assured, if people don't ask questions, as long as everybody's asked questions like they're supposed to, I won't discount you if not enough people ask you questions so that you can answer them, because that's happened. I've noticed to a few people where you're like an old presentation, you're like one of the early people to submit, but nobody's asked you any questions, which is strange. And that will not, I will not make that count against you. Only if you didn't ask questions yourself. But the peer review, you also have to, if you submitted a draft, you have to give 3 different people responses on their essay. Once you do that, then you get full credit for the peer review. And that one's really important right now because that's how you get the roundup achievement. So if you want your grade to round up from not just an 89 to a 90 or a 79 to an 80, but from an 87, 88, 89 to a 90 or a 77, 78, 79 to an 80, you have to get the peer review. We didn't have any face-to-face at grade conferences, so that the only grade that relies on now is the peer review. It's very, very important to get that turned in. Next. Going down below, it's basically everything I just said. If you look, I bolded every time it says go do it. So if you want an A, or you're like, how do I make my grade higher? Find the thing you haven't done, go do the thing. That is the most important thing you can do. You can use the grade conference sheet. You can also use your grades section. Just look and say, I haven't done this, I haven't done that. And if you look, Magnus Baraki is one of those people who was freaking out, like, oh my gosh, balancing your labs, oh my gosh. Don't worry, Magnus Baraki. You don't have great lab grades, but I got you, buddy. I went over to Launchpad, I saw. You can also check your discussion posts. Yeah, I've done all those. Quiz. Oh, missed the 3rd quiz. Didn't even notice. That's 10 points toward that 10% right there, so that's going to raise up the grade a little bit, which is good. But he's got to get 100 on it to get those 10 points. So, but it'll only make his grade go up. It's not going to go down. Let's see. So, I've got this done. Let's go back over here to the announcements and make sure I covered all that stuff. There's also one little like nice place, like down here at the bottom of the announcements. You can see that's also in the PDF. I put that down at the bottom where it just kind of cleanly breaks down all the different types of grades, where they're located, and the percentages for just a little bit. And you have to have an 80 essay average if you want to be exempt from the final, but still every single other assignment just about is worth doing more than the final. If I had to break down what's most important, least important, research paper 20%. I mean, the highest you can get without that is an 80. Presentation, super easy, 10%. The essays, if you haven't done those, the other ones, you're probably already in a lot of trouble, and you need to get that done. And if you're missing discussion posts and quizzes, go do those real quick because they're super easy and you can knock them out real fast. Once you get the essays done, that knocks out your final exam, so there's really no point even taking it. You just need to get your essays in order. But if you want to track your grade after you've seen the sheet, because you're not going to get a new sheet, there's a place you can go over here in Blackboard to get that done. You go to the syllabus page. You go to the gradebook student formula sheet. It's going to ask you where do you want to download this, and you just put it in a folder. Remember what you called it or what it's called, and you'll open it. I've already got a folder over here with it in there, so I'm just going to go over and wrong one. Yeah, there you go. Open this. I've set up a file where you just type your grades in where it says zeros, and it will tell you what your grade is. You have to do it accurately though. I've got it set to where you can't mess with anything that's not one of these numbers. So what you need to do is just start, logging your grades from the grade conference sheet. You can save it, keep it up on your desktop maybe. Save it to the cloud if you like. Move it to like a Excel sheet. See if Excel will open it, like our Google Sheets or whatever. But I'm going to go over here and look at my grades and transfer them. So I have, what's the first thing? Evaluation synthesis 1 is a 95. Critical analysis, second one. Oh yeah, in order it was 77. Evaluation 2, 75. Evaluation 3, 85. Research paper 80. Oh, good, 81 essay average. That's good. Now my in-class grades. Luckily I got all those. Discussion posts more than I had to, but I don't actually put in 260. This is weird. It's on a 100 scale. All these down here are, so 130. 148 out of 200, so you have to, again, break that down to 100. So that's actually 74. So it's not that great. There's some points to be had there. Labs, again, 65, but you don't put 65. You got full credit, so you put the 100. If it's anything below 60, you can't put 100. You have to put whatever the actual number is. It's going to calculate it that way. Then planning and presentation. Turns out he needs to go and get those points because he's only got that many right now. And it shows, interestingly, very close to what that grade is, but not exact, is it? Something's up with the essay average. 95, 85, 75, 77, 80. Why is the essay average off? Okay, I found what the error was. I just made a like a mistype on the Magnus Brock one because I made all his grades up, and I mistyped something in one of the fields, and it screwed everything up and caused his essay average to calculate incorrectly. So this is the correct essay average. So you just kind of have to ignore what's on the PDF sheet. So what Magnus Brock needs to do is, what is this? Is his average actually higher, ironically enough? 80.71, 81.7. Oh no, I just had it reversed. What he needs to do now is do his presentation, finish those points out. Looks like he got an 8 on the planning and never finished that, so that's not actually a problem. I probably told him, you just go ahead and move on with the paper, we don't have time, and that probably was happen. So he's going to finish out that presentation. If he does that, 108, because you just add 100 to whatever you had before, he's an A. A lot of people are going to be exempt, and all you have left is a presentation, because this happened to a lot of people where you turn in peer review and the presentation, you thought you were done, but you never did the questions or the answers or the feedback to other people. So you need to go in, do that. If you haven't submitted it, do all of it. Please just do whatever you can to get points, because I mean, literally the class closes Thursday night, so you have to do everything by then. And I'm going to get a lot of grades, and I can already tell you, I already know. So I've already got a bunch waiting there for me now, but I know the only time I had to film this video was in the quiet of the evening, so I had to do it now. Let's say that something's going off on his grades, and he did the presentation, quizzes, or let's say he didn't do all these discussion posts, and that brings his grade down just slightly. And he didn't do the peer review. So in this scenario now, where let's say that he hadn't even written a paper yet, reader's paper, so he's like, what do I got to get an A in the class, right? So if he gets a 50, he's already got a C. If he gets a 60, A. If he gets a 60, he's got an 80. And then a 70, 82, 80, 88.7. Why did that jump up so much? Well, because he became exempt from the final somewhere in that area. Actually, when he had 75, he was not yet exempt, but when he hit that 76 and the 77, that's when he became exempt. So he got the exemption in, and then it became his final average. But if he wants to figure out how much he needs to get to be an A, he can just keep plugging in numbers. That's what's great about this form. Like, okay, I need to get that. No, because he's not going to raise an 88 up to a 90 because I don't have the peer review. But he will raise an 89 up to a 90, so I need to get an 82 on the research paper with all the current grades that I have. You could revise something else, but the research paper is worth the most points. Now, in his case, he hasn't done all the quizzes, and they're still opened. He should have done those. Additionally, there's more discussion posts he could have done. He should have done those. And that's kind of the moral of this whole story, is down here I say, if you haven't done it, do it. Everybody needs more points in some way, I'm sure, so go do those points. Get the points. Everything. Discussion posts, they're all open. Go do them. Quiz points, they're all open. Go do them. Go look at your grades. Say, what am I missing? You scroll, discussion posts are fine. Look, I'm missing quiz 3. That's how you find out. You just look at what is there and what you don't have. And then you go do the thing you don't have. Um, your essay average here, your lab average is here, essays you might be missing are going to be here, ICDPT grades are up here. You definitely have an opportunity. In the future, I'd love to get where this total actually works. But it has a trouble calculating for revisions and achievements. It can't do those, especially the way I calculate the labs. I give you 100 for the. It cannot figure that out. So let's go back over here to the announcements. Make sure that I covered everything. If you want an A, you have to submit everything. I can't see many other ways to do that. If you're wondering about your grade, like how do I get it up? Go over to the grades like I just showed you. Look at what's there. Look for anything that's missing. That's what you turn in. If I had an order in which you should go, the quizzes and discussion most are super easy to get a lot of points quickly. Well, the quizzes more so. The other ones are going to be you writing an essay. Critical analysis is fairly hard, so it's up to you whether you want to write 3 different evaluation synthesis essays instead of a critical analysis essay first to see if you can get them done. Then with the practice under your belt, then you can do a critical analysis essay. But the research paper is tantamount, absolutely important. If you're in one of those situations where you can't get access to the labs because of a technological issue, because of a coronavirus issue, unfortunately, like I can't, like I don't. There's not really anything I can do about that. Everybody's supposed to kind of have access to a code at the beginning of the semester anyway. Not having one now, you could try to do everything, and then maybe if you had already done a free trial at the beginning of the semester, now you go and like set up an email and do a free trial again, but this time actually do the stuff. But I would make that the last thing you do, get all the other stuff done first, and then just do as many assignments as you can before, maybe even after midnight on Thursday. Get as close as you can, because every little bit that you do on Launchpad will help. It will, because it'll add to that total on Launchpad, and then I can add that into your. So if you end up only get to 35%, you only get 35%, so it's not going to count as 100, but it will count for 35%, which will give you 5 points of that 15%, 5% of that 50% basically. So that increases your chances of not, failing or getting somewhere near an A. Some of you need a B to stay in a program. Just do whatever you can. Do not become brokenhearted. Don't just. I mean, think about the consequences. Right now, if you give up. Many of you had restaurant jobs, which you're told that you still have. Once this is all over, many of you have started working those restaurant jobs again. Many of you still have places that have decided to furlough you. If you've been sent back to work and the social distancing measures aren't being honored, you'll get sick, or your grandparents will. It's going to happen. And you won't even know you're sick, and you'll be transferring it to everybody, and then I think there's been a prediction that we're going to have a relapse, but you don't want this to ever happen to you again. If you stick with college, it's like an investment in your future. It's like insurance. It's insurance against this sort of thing being likely to happen to you again. With a college degree, you tend to get jobs that are more cerebral, things that involve thought more and communication. Not saying that the kind of jobs that you do like right now don't involve thought. I'm just saying that when I was a waiter serving tables, or I was a server serving tables, that while I might have been, it was more like a video game than it was anything intellectually stimulating or challenging. I brought the food out. I got the money. It was more social than anything else. And when you get the intellectual jobs associated with a college degree, you end up having the kind of job you could do from home if you had to and still keep working, because it's an intellectual job. It's made up mostly of ideas. Those ideas get transferred to others. That can be done over a computer. And usually you're in a situation where you're making enough money that you can afford a computer. And so I really think that it's going to be. It still really bugs me. There was a guy 2 semesters ago. He was a dual credit student, and it was the last day of class, or last 2 days of classes. And one of those days, the databases went down, so he couldn't do his research. And there was one more day left. And he said, well, I had planned to do it on the Saturday before, and the databases were down. And I was like, well, I mean, it was due 3 weeks prior to that, so And I'm going to tell you. And I said, you should do it tonight, though. It's the most important thing. And he says, yeah, but I got to work. And I understand that people feel that way. Like, you need the money now. But I mean, like, if you're already in college, you've already put together that time. Like, think about how much your time was worth and how much you wasted if you don't just go ahead and do that. And then that's going to decrease the chances you'll end up getting a college degree later because you just wasted essentially like that, however many hundreds of dollars and all that time. And the prospect of doing it again is going to seem like a mountain to you. So just don't set yourself up for failure that way. Prioritize and think of how important this is to get done, because you don't want to be somebody who's going through this again. You want to be somebody who is nerve-wracked, yeah, but luckily my wife and I both have college degrees, and we've been able to, kind of keep our jobs. That's not true just for teachers either. People out there who are engineers, and nurses are admittedly dealing is pretty tough right now because they're so necessary with their college degrees, but and doctors as well. But there are many, many fields right now that are able to still go to work and kind of keep aspects of the economy afloat, even though we have 14% unemployment. That you don't want to be one of those people again that's on 14% unemployment. Like, you don't want to be the person in that group, because your job, when people can't leave their houses, just can't exist anymore. That's terrifying, to just know that any day somebody just decide you don't get money anymore. This is worth your time. And hopefully it's helped you realize too that having a college degree now is more important now than ever, because you probably have seen relatives who are now out of work as a result of this. People who are like, well, I'm making good money, so I don't need a college degree. I mean, those are the people now who, a lot of them are stuck at home, not making any money, relying on those stimulus checks. I just really, really want to impress upon you the importance of this moment in your life. If you're looking at the possibility of failing when you could pass, if you're in a situation where it is not possible, yet somehow you're still watching this video, hopefully this video maybe give you a little bit of hope that you can do it. You can do it. I've given you, like, here's everything you got to do. By the way, my stomach made that noise. It's totally manageable. I've given you the tools. I wish it the best of luck. I do apologize for my look, my glasses, my buff that I now wear to cover up my massive hair. I'm recording this very, very late in the evening. In fact, I guess it's morning now. Like the sun's almost up. Because I want you guys to succeed, and I want somebody to be able to sit here and talk to you and tell you it's going to be okay as long as you do your work. It will be. Just do it. If you do your work, I will find a way. I mean, I don't see how anybody would finish all their work and not pass. I'm just throwing it out there. Unless it was just abysmally done, like you just turned in a name or something. That won't work. But just, I'm really, really, really hoping you guys do well. Really, really hoping for it. Miss having you guys in the classroom. I'm a classroom kind of guy. Well, I wish you guys best of luck. Good luck, guys.